Day 49. Nancy Guthrie has vanished. The garage remains a silent, closed tomb. Investigators are currently wrestling with an eerie digital void on a medical server. To the world, it looks like a typical suburban disappearance. Yet, the forensic data suggests a much darker, more calculated narrative. During the quiet, early hours of February 1st, two vital lifelines were severed at the exact same moment. One was a doorbell camera watching the porch. The other was a pacemaker, the mechanical heart keeping an 84-year-old woman alive. This perfect, simultaneous failure is the dark heart of the current federal probe. How does an intruder vanish a security network while stopping a pulse inside someone's chest? Such synchronization points to a level of technical mastery unheard of in routine burglaries. Police are now staring into a black hole where data used to live. With every tick of the clock, the hope of finding her alive dissolves. To grasp the chilling new frontier of high-tech crime, you should follow our investigation into the digital shadows of this active search. Right now, the most haunting piece of evidence is the absolute lack of it. This crime scene is defined by a vacuum. Her digital existence just evaporated into the desert air. This isn't just a search for a missing grandmother. They are hunting a phantom, something capable of erasing a life from both reality and the cloud. That silent pacemaker is now the loudest alarm in this case. It signals a cold, methodical dismantling of her every protection. This wasn't luck. It was a surgical strike. We have to look closer at the data to see the terrifying precision of this predator. The moment that heart monitor went dark, the rules of the search changed forever. To understand why this is impossible, we have to look at Nancy herself. Nancy Guthrie is 84. Her body was failing, requiring constant help just to move. She lived by the grace of a machine, a pacemaker fused to her heart. That device broadcasted a constant stream of life signs to a medical station miles away. It was her digital heartbeat, a tether to the living world. A woman with her physical limits doesn't just wander out into the night. Getting past the driveway would have been an agonizing feat, or required a vehicle. Her home in the Catalina Foothills was a fortress of specific obstacles for a woman of her age. Every inch of her environment was designed for one thing: survival through surveillance. The camera on the door was the outer shield. The pacemaker was the inner sanctuary. These systems were her guardians against the unexpected. To take them both down at once reveals a predatory intelligence. Whoever took her knew exactly what was keeping her breathing and what was watching the door. They didn't just overcome her frail body. They murdered her digital dependencies. Her security protocol was neutralized in heartbeats. The medical fail-safes never even blinked. We are witnessing a scene where the very tools meant to save her were turned into a shroud. The physical frailty of an 84-year-old woman clashes violently with this ghost-like abduction. Moving a person with mobility issues is a slow, heavy process. To do it without making a sound or tripping a sensor requires months of planning. The evidence screams that the intruder knew her weaknesses better than she did. This level of intimate detail transforms this from a crime into a professional execution. Authorities must bridge the gap between her physical weakness and the high-tech darkness that swallowed her. That heart monitor was supposed to be her absolute guarantee of safety. The fact that her heart's transmission was the first thing cut is deeply disturbing. It proves that walls and smart tech are no match for a dedicated predator. A smart home becomes a prison once the keys are stolen from the inside. The final verifiable moments occurred at 9:50 p.m. on January 31st, when Tommaso Cione drove his mother-in-law back to her quiet desert residence. A routine family dinner had reached its quiet conclusion. Moving from the vehicle inside occurred without any visible trouble. The automatic garage door rumbled shut, sealing them inside. This was Nancy's final contact. The home was secured normally. Inside, the atmosphere stayed calm and undisturbed all night. Before dawn on February 1st, their world fractured in silence. Pinpointing this exact moment of disruption is now the focus. By Sunday, Nancy's absence was undeniable after she missed church. This sudden break in her habits sparked an alarm. Local officers arrived at the residence for a routine check. The walkthrough was puzzling. Every door and window stayed locked. The home's exterior showed no signs of a breach. Inside, there were no traces of a struggle or exit. However, forensic teams found a grim bloodstain on the porch. Lab tests confirmed the blood belonged exclusively to Nancy Guthrie. Finding DNA outside a locked home creates a logical paradox. Evidence implies she stepped outside or was lured into darkness. Investigators checked security footage to clarify the missing hours. Here, the search shifted from physical tracks to digital forensics. Logs showed the camera was disabled before the attack occurred. Both hard drives and cloud servers were scrubbed of data. Detectives then sought biometric data from her internal heart monitor. They hoped the device recorded the moment her heart faltered. They found the medical data stream was severed simultaneously. The intruder did more than just kidnap the woman. They erased her digital footprint, leaving only blood behind. The simultaneous failure of camera and pacemaker wasn't a coincidence. Investigators hunt a phantom capable of silencing a human heart. The calculated efficiency of this digital void is haunting. The case remains frozen, where blood meets a wall of silence. Experts isolated the millisecond the entire home network died. This was no mere power failure or accidental signal loss. The system faced a coordinated attack, though some fragments survived. Analysts eventually recovered ghostly footage from weeks before the crime. Logs from January 11th and 24th reveal strange anomalies. A dark silhouette appears, lingering at the property's edge. This figure shows a predatory focus on the home's layout. Notice the moonlight and shadows in the January 11th file. Now compare those shadow angles to the final images. The light suggests the killer used lunar cycles for cover. He mapped camera blind spots long before the final abduction. If you find these forensic details compelling, following our reports ensures updates on this terrifyingly methodical predator. He knew exactly where the lens ended and darkness began. He neutralized the security perimeter with chilling, tactical precision. The digital trail went cold with terrifying precision. At the very microsecond, the porch camera flickered out. The medical data stream flatlined. This perfect overlap in timing represents the chilling epicenter of the entire investigative timeline. The feed from the exterior lens and the pulse from the internal heart monitor both vanished into the void simultaneously. Forensic analysts view this sudden silence from the cardiac telemetry as the most haunting piece of evidence recovered. That medical device was a lifeline, engineered to beam a constant, rhythmic signal of a beating heart to a protected server. There was no slow decline or technical interference. The signal simply ceased, severed in a single, mathematically absolute instant. This leaves detectives staring down two chilling and entirely separate forensic possibilities. One suggests a predator with the sophisticated tech needed to ghost a medical implant from the shadows. The other is far more grim. The heart behind the device simply stopped providing a viable rhythm. Did someone deploy a localized electromagnetic pulse to blind the digital eyes of the home? Or did Nancy Guthrie take her final breath on that cold concrete before the abduction even began? Where they expected to find a body or a struggle, federal agents stumbled upon a single, misplaced fragment of life. Grid teams scanning the dirt found a lone glove, discarded just 2 meters from the primary scene. Behind the sterile glass of the crime lab, technicians pulled a foreign genetic signature from the fabric. The profile belongs to an unknown male who, until now, did not exist in any database. This find shatters the logic of the search. How does a ghost-like, high-tech operation leave behind such a clumsy physical footprint? The digital blackout was surgical, yet this secondary site reveals a strangely human mistake. Investigators are now forced to ask if the killer panicked during a chaotic tactical retreat. Or perhaps, it was a calculated plant, a piece of biological static designed to lead the search miles off course. The hunt has now exploded into the wilderness, with massive resources poured into the desolate desert floor. Teams are scouring every inch of this new path, hunting for a single microscopic trace along the vector. Every subsequent grain of sand or fiber found out there must now survive the cold scrutiny of the lab. That mystery DNA is an undeniable fact, confirmed and reconfirmed by forensic experts. What they don't know is if this genetic ghost is the same shadow seen moving in the darkness. Trying to fit this DNA into the existing sequence of events is like solving a puzzle with the wrong pieces. Detectives must bridge the gap between a flawless digital hack and a sloppy physical oversight. The disconnect is forcing profilers to reevaluate the fundamental psychology of the person they are hunting. A man who calculates his moves by the phases of the moon doesn't just drop his equipment in the dirt. This split in the evidence is a nightmare for the federal agents managing the search perimeter. They are moving personnel based on a trail that might be nothing more than a carefully crafted lie. The distance to that glove implies a fast-moving vehicle was likely involved in the extraction. And yet, every acoustic sensor and hidden camera in the area recorded a silence that was absolute. No engines revved, no tires crunched on gravel. The idea of a fast vehicle simply doesn't fit the data. It is a paradox that the current evidence is unable to explain. Analysts are now calculating the odds of a killer vanishing on foot through the brush. But the brutal terrain of the foothills makes a silent, fast escape on foot nearly impossible. The whole case is now trapped in the void between two impossible truths. On the ground, it looks like a frantic run through the sand. In the digital realm, it was a masterclass in total control. Authorities are trying to layer these paradoxes into a single, terrifying picture of what happened. But with every new find, the mountain of questions only grows steeper. Ultimately, all these theories must face the cold, biological reality of Nancy Guthrie's fate. The sheer physics of how this crime was committed remains an impenetrable wall. Forensic experts looking at the case have pointed to one glaring structural flaw in the entire narrative. Grainy frames reveal a lone figure drifting through the shadows of the estate. Relocating an 84-year-old woman with severe physical impairments demands significant mechanical force. Transporting an immobile adult without a motor vehicle is physically impossible for a lone actor. Yet, the dead silence of that night confirms no engine ever breached the property's quiet perimeter. This fundamental defiance of physics shatters the traditional profile of a solo abduction. Investigators are left with a chilling mathematical void, where the lone intruder theory meets reality. This logistical enigma was soon overshadowed by a secondary, far more chaotic development. Intelligence agencies flagged a series of encrypted transmissions, demanding an astronomical sum. These faceless digital actors demanded $6 million delivered through untraceable cryptocurrency networks. This sudden shift toward Bitcoin extortion creates a jarring fracture in the suspect's perceived objective. Technicians must now verify if these threats are a genuine demand or a ruse. Federal units are currently mapping the digital handshakes to pinpoint the source of these commands. A legitimate kidnapping hinges on a bridge of communication and tangible proof of life. In this instance, the captors have offered nothing to confirm the victim is still breathing. The precision used to bypass medical hardware clashes with the messy nature of this ransom. If the endgame was always about the money, the total erasure of their digital trail seems counterproductive to a payout. Such extreme stealth measures statistically lower the chances of a successful financial negotiation. This psychological disconnect suggests the digital demands may simply be a clever smokescreen. The perpetrators likely used this electronic noise to pull resources away from the primary hunt. These conflicting signals have left the task force trapped in a state of analytical gridlock. Stay vigilant and informed as we continue to track the developments in this mystery. The physical impossibility and the bizarre extortion attempt form a jagged forensic mosaic. Detectives have moved past the search for a common criminal looking for a quick score. Focus has shifted to a meticulous inventory of the tools carried by that solitary ghost. Fleeting images captured moments before the feed died reveal a figure who was heavily burdened. Digital enhancement shows the subject equipped with a specific, highly technical array of hardware. Identifying this gear fundamentally changes the nature of what we believe happened that night. Re-examining those final frames uncovers a terrifying kit designed for a singular purpose. The pixelated data paints a picture of a professional ready for a multifaceted operation. The subject wore light-absorbing fabric, practically vanishing into the ink of the night. A tactical mask completely shielded their facial structure from any high-definition recognition. Heavy-duty gloves ensured no biological trace or fingerprint would ever be found. A holstered sidearm suggests they were prepared for a lethal confrontation during the abduction. Yet, the most jarring piece of evidence was a common piece of outdoor gear. The lens clearly identifies a 25-liter Ozark Trail backpack. This high-capacity recreational bag introduces a glaring flaw in the logic of the crime. Professional extractions prioritize speed and zero bulk to ensure a swift getaway. Lugging a heavy nylon pack significantly compromises the agility of a lone operative. It represents a dangerous liability, forcing a total re-evaluation of the operational parameters. Why would a lone kidnapper need so much storage space while snatching a human target? The answer to that question has become the cornerstone of the current investigative theory. When viewed through a forensic lens, a 25-liter capacity offers a very specific utility. It is the perfect size for a high-powered frequency jammer, explaining the total security collapse. That explains the sudden loss of vital medical data from her heart's pacemaker. Blocking out signals across such a massive estate requires an immense power source. Any hardware capable of bridging domestic and medical frequencies is inevitably quite massive. The backpack's volume is ideally suited to hide a high-capacity battery array. Alternatively, that pack might have carried something far more sinister and biological. Its size is sufficient to move a large volume of biological evidence undetected. It could hold the specific supplies needed to scrub a crime scene clean. Inside, there might be chemical agents meant to dissolve any remaining biological traces. Investigators are weighing the tech sabotage theory against the possibility of biological erasure. While the video is grainy, those optical details deserve your own careful examination. Why would a killer choose to carry such a heavy bag during escape? Does that bag hide a jamming device or something infinitely more terrifying? Your insights into these details often reveal gaps in standard criminal profiling models. If you have a theory, following our reports keeps your analysis accurate. That pack suggests the intruder planned for heavy resource needs during the extraction. This level of preparation destroys any theory that this was a random robbery. The suspect entered the Catalina Foothills estate with a very specific, dark mission. They brought the exact tools required to silence a target under constant monitoring. This was a cold-blooded hunt targeted at a victim from a vulnerable demographic. The gear choice highlights a chilling power gap between the predator and victim. The intruder used high-tech preparation against an 84-year-old woman with a heart implant. The heartless calculation behind this equipment elevates the suspect's overall threat level. Profilers must now reconstruct the perpetrator's psyche based entirely on this tactical gear. The gloves and mask are standard tools for avoiding both visual and DNA-based identification. The gun signals lethal intent, but the bag reveals the intrusion's true nature. These items together depict a highly disciplined and resourceful person of interest. This suspect crossed a wealthy neighborhood without ever triggering a single sound alarm. They dismantled complex security layers with the precision of a surgeon and silence. The sight of this tactical equipment drastically changes the momentum of the hunt. Police are no longer looking for a panicked amateur fleeing a messy scene. They are hunting a professional who dominates both the digital and physical realms. Recognizing this sophisticated threat has fundamentally reshaped the entire police response strategy. The tension over missing video has been replaced by a heavy, breathless wait. Detectives are waiting for one mistake, a digital echo to pierce the enforced silence. Currently, the investigation is moving forward within a very narrow analytical window. While searches continue, they are currently producing very little usable forensic evidence. The main strategy now hinges on the use of advanced digital forensic tools. Federal agents are now pulling massive amounts of raw data from telecommunications hubs. They are plotting every cellular transmission in the area during those critical hours. This involves checking thousands of data points against the profiles of local residents. The aim is to find one out-of-place device operating near the victim's house. Even an intruder using a jammer might leave a faint digital fingerprint behind. Tech teams are looking for a device that hit a tower then vanished. Such deep digital triangulation takes immense time and massive amounts of computing power. As experts sift the noise, the Guthrie family remains trapped in agonizing limbo. A heavy silence hangs as supercomputers churn through the digital ghosts of that cold February morning. The entire investigation remains tethered to a pair of chilling, unresolved enigmas that defy explanation. The first mystery centers on the harrowing chronology of events on that exterior concrete porch. Laboratory analysis pinpointed a specific, concentrated patch where the victim's lifeblood stained the ground. What violent series of events could have painted such a precise biological map across the darkness? Technicians cannot tell if the injury happened before the camera failed. Why was nothing recorded then? If the violence erupted during the blackout, how did the predator manage the surroundings so perfectly? The sheer amount of biological evidence suggests a level of brutality that the narrative cannot reconcile. The second riddle lies buried deep within the complex digital architecture of the medical infrastructure. Engineers at the device manufacturer are currently piecing together the final, desperate heart rate telemetry stream. They are scouring the server's deep memory, searching for any shattered fragments of data packets lost. Did the internal pacemaker pulse with a final, catastrophic rhythm before the connection was severed forever? Salvaging these few bits of code would fundamentally rewrite the trajectory of this entire murder hunt. It would provide a definitive, biological record of the exact moment the physical nightmare began. This data would once and for all settle whether the blackout was a technical glitch or fatal. Specialized units are pouring massive resources into catching this digital whisper, while authorities sift through anonymous leads. Each unverified claim is being dragged through a cold, analytical filter to separate fact from neighborhood hearsay. The sheer mountain of community feedback demands a clinical approach to isolate any genuine forensic details. Every reported car and strange encounter must be meticulously mapped against the known timeline of events. Currently, the search is paralyzed at the grim crossroads where advanced technology meets missing physical evidence. The police have uncovered a disturbing trail of data regarding the perpetrator's cold and calculated preparations. Yet, they possess absolutely zero verifiable leads pointing to the current physical location of the victim. Search teams continue to comb the unforgiving, jagged expanses of the surrounding and desolate desert landscape. But the real breakthrough is being hunted within the sterile corridors of server farms and laboratories. The truth behind this disappearance likely will not be found buried in the sand or the brush. It will surface from a solitary decrypted file or the pinpoint accuracy of a cellular signal. Until that digital veil is lifted, the case remains smothered by a wall of deliberate, calculated static. A modern residence is only as secure as its weakest wireless frequency. The illusion of safety is a lie. Most homeowners blindly hand over their safety to automated networks and cameras that rely on thin air. There is a fatal assumption that a steady data stream creates an unbreakable shield around one's life. The lessons this tragedy offers regarding digital vulnerability are enough to keep any average citizen awake. A cunning predator does not need to physically smash a lens to blind the eyes of a home. They merely need to sever the invisible communication thread connecting the device to its remote brain. The flaws built into our everyday gadgets provide a wide-open door for a patient and calculating intruder. Common internet signals bleed out into the street, leaving a map that anyone can easily follow. A hunter can use simple scanning tools to identify every linked device in a home without ever entering. This case stands as a grim testament to the absolute need for old-fashioned, hardwired security systems. Trusting your life to a wireless signal creates a singular, invisible weakness that can be exploited remotely. The public must understand that digital ease almost always comes at the cost of actual physical safety. The fusion of healthcare technology and home surveillance has opened a terrifying new door for predators. When a person's heart depends on a Wi-Fi signal, that signal becomes the most dangerous target. The calculated way these systems were cut forces a total rethink of how we protect our spaces. Every homeowner must now look at their smart network through the eyes of a professional jammer. Mechanical deadbolts and copper-wired cameras remain the only true defenses against a high-tech assault. A wireless doorbell is no match for the unshakable reliability of a dedicated, closed-circuit network system. This evidence suggests that digital fortifications can be dismantled without a single sound ever being captured. The central mystery of this entire investigation inevitably gravitates toward the internal medical device. How could a localized threat project such precise interference into a surgically implanted biometric monitor? Solving this specific technological enigma holds the absolute key to understanding the entire physical disappearance. Forensic teams continue to process cellular logs along with the recovered fragments of optical data. The physical search of the Catalina Foothills will expand, guided by these emerging forensic models. We will monitor every unfolding development in this complex forensic puzzle as new data emerges. Ensuring you follow this investigation closely is the only way to receive these critical updates. The digital trail is currently shattered, yet it has not been entirely erased from existence. Do you believe federal investigators will ultimately recover the final telemetry packets from that compromised pacemaker? The entire federal investigation hinges upon retrieving that single, microscopic sequence of absolute biological truth. The forensic timeline remains permanently fractured until those missing data points are successfully extracted. And until those medical servers register a new, verifiable point of data, the absence of Nancy Guthrie remains a chilling and permanent silence on the monitoring network.